It's Building Code. I'm Zach Witovich.
And I'm Charley Birtwistle.
How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. It's the middle of the workday here at Buildertrend, and always appreciate the opportunity to pop down in the studio and hang out with my best bud, Zach, for a while.
Just get a best bud on the podcast.
Yeah. Nicole and John are probably up there, but you're close third.
That's right. Well, they're the ones who really make it happen.
Absolutely.
Who do we got on the podcast today, Charley?
We have Paul Ledet on the podcast today. A returning guest, which we always enjoy. The owner of CLH Builders, or Chris Ledet Homes, here to talk about what they're doing down in Louisiana. So hopefully dive into some interesting processes and building code areas that they have to keep a particularly close eye on to make sure that their house doesn't blow down due to hurricanes.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of hear the perspective of builders that have to deal with different circumstances. We've got a lot of that have come here and talked about different things like earthquakes, hurricanes. It's funny because in Nebraska, what do we got? Like we're
tornadoes.
It's like boring. Like when's the last time a tornado? You know,
hey, like last year, I had to go down in the basement and there's a little tornado warning. But yeah,
Nicole was like, "What are you talking about?" Let's get Paul on here before we get too far off track. Hey, Paul, welcome to the Building Code. Welcome back to the Building Code. Thanks for returning. We love it when we have people come on more than once. How are things going? How you been since you were on last?
Man, thanks for having me. Things are great. You know. Like I said, we're kind of talking a little bit before the cast, just a little rainy and wet. But other than that, man, we're in good spirits down here.
I feel like in Louisiana, that's kind of the default. You know, everybody in Louisiana is always in a good mood. That's one of my favorite parts about, the people from there. Yeah.
And this kind of heat and this kind of, it's kind of oppressive, you really got to just muscle through it. But, man, we're great. Life is good down here.
So for the listeners out there that weren't lucky enough to hear the first time you were on here, could you give us just kind of a brief recap, who you are, a little bit about the business and what you guys provide?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Paul Ledet. My dad's Chris Ledet. The company I now own and operate is Chris Ledet Homes. Actually, we're going through a kind of a name change to CLH Build. We make 40 years next year.
Wow.
We've been in business. I started about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, after I graduated from LSU, moved back home and kind of started to take over the family business. So my father, 3 little girls, 5, 3, and 6-month-old. And, we're a custom home builder and home of Thibodaux area, based out of Thibodaux, Louisiana. So, and things are good, we really, my dad just kind of nestled over here. He was born and raised here and kind of got in the industry kind of randomly. So, pretty cool story. 40 years now. It's great.
Yeah, that's definitely an impressive time frame and just something that anytime Zach and I get to talk with somebody on the podcast that's been around the business, that long and has built a business that's able to sustain all the ups and downs that we've seen in the past 40 years and even the past 10 years, often yields a lot of insight.
Feels like 40 these last 2.
These last 2 are bad. Man, he's he kind of really set up a kind of a good name for the business. And then we're trying to carry on that legacy. A little pressure there, but it's also very thankful for it. But it's been great. So, like I said, second generation, and still going strong. So hopefully, the next several years will be fruitful.
You got to start planning the third generation.
Yeah,
any of the girls want to jump into the construction industry? My middle one is pretty tenacious. I think she's going to be. She can handle it.
So right now, I feel like, she's only 3, but she's. I think she's got it for sure.
Well, that would be a good tagline for Buildertrend. Is like software that makes your business so easy to manage. Even a 3-year-old could do it. She could be the face.
Getting the T-shirt suggestion early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul, you were, I know we did a case study on Crystal Day Homes not that long ago. We'll definitely have that linked in the show notes for our listeners. And, we talk about it a little bit in there, and on your website, you've built over 400 homes now, which is incredibly impressive. I was wondering if you could talk about maybe some of the recent changes, someone that's been around, a company that's been around for 40 years, since you've kind of taken over, and where you guys are heading, what's kind of at the forefront of your mind and the direction you got to take the business.
So, obviously the biggest change for us was, going from a kind of a mom and pop paper to integrating Buildertrend over the course of several years, and then being able to kind of the business, I don't want to say it kind of runs itself, but the jobs, really helps with a lot of the day-to-day minutia, and you can kind of focus on bigger things like, we've got upcoming building codes that are supposed to start at the beginning of January, even though Louisiana's fairly far behind as the country. Just staying in front of, some of the building science, that a lot of stuff that we practice, but now it's starting to become law. Just that's kind of been one of the bigger changes, I guess, is going from, paper to, like I said, going to a software and such as Buildertrend, and then trying to stay in front of your competition and staying up to date. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And outside of just the normal kind of day-to-day concerns of growing a business and competitors and moving into the digital age, you're also located in Louisiana, so you have the added fun of hurricane season,
right?
Which is more than most people would have to think about alone. Yeah. So what are some of the kind of most important elements that go into preparing a home for the impacts of hurricanes? You mentioned the building code. Is that something that you guys have to tweak a little bit more than the additional custom home builder?
So I'll back up to Katrina in 2005. I was a freshman in college, and Katrina hit, and immediately after, probably a year or two after, the codes changed overnight. I can remember as a young college student, my dad just having a battle with the codes finally being enforced the way they were supposed to be.
Right.
And that was a major change for them. Way back in 2008, I think it was 2007, 2008. And that also, to remind you, it's the same time as the housing crisis. So you had,
I was going to say,
debilitating
2008
codes.
Yeah, not a whole lot else going on at that time frame.
And you had debilitating codes that were just killing prices of things, and on top of a collapsing housing industry, that was the major change. So a lot of the preparedness was kind of done back then, and we were just hit with Ida, which the eye actually skimmed Thibodaux. We're only about 20 miles as the crow flies from the coast. And the eye just narrowly missed us. But a lot of the Homa, Grand Isle, which is a lot of vacation homes, that place got those areas east of us got absolutely decimated. But if you go back and look, pretty much all the 10-year-old houses fared well. It's a lot of the 15, 20 years older. Those are the places that really took the brunt of the damage. So as far as hurricane preparedness, I guess, thankfully, a lot of the codes that we're following now are, we're ready for that. The biggest thing that we have is probably flood. That will be that's going to be the next big challenge here, because there's a lot of debate on, we got the wind mitigation figured out, but if you're still at 5 feet above sea level, it's still a problem.
Right.
and there's been big talks about raising the base flood elevation in parts of Louisiana above 7 or 8 foot, which would put entire communities below the base flood, which ultimately means thousands of dollars of flood insurance or no flood insurance, and could potentially be pretty impactful. to an area like ours. Not to mention that all the all the levees that were just built were all built for base flood of, I think it's 6 south of us. And so then you have a whole levee system that is basically null and void,
right,
that they spent trillions of dollars on. So yeah, but as far as preparedness for our projects now, I mean, a lot of my projects did great. My parents had a camp, we call it our vacation home, down in Grand Isle, and we had just sold it probably about 6 months before the storm, and man, it was almost untouched,
Wow.
and the storm went right over it. So the codes are there for hurricane preparedness. It's mainly just bunkering down the hatch and making sure everything's picked up before it hits, because it'll be bad,
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it applies obviously to like a lot of the markets that Buildertrend serves. Like we have Florida, we have a lot of people in the Carolinas, Louisiana, and we've had a lot of different groups come on recently about greenhousing, and the code came up in those conversations too, and we got some interesting perspective. And I guess what I'm curious about is like, does the code shift given the circumstances of like the environment that you're building houses in, or is it more of a universally applied part of construction? Like if you're a listener and like you're in like Kentucky, are there considerations for things that they need to be aware of that, maybe not for hurricane reasons, but like the code covers so many circumstances? I imagine this is like where the pure, we don't actually know side of things. It's kind of an interesting area to explore.
So Florida's got it figured out. I mean, they're obviously they're the most vulnerable, big peninsula out in they're constantly getting rattled with storms. What's really popular down there in Florida is ICF, insulated concrete forms. You see it up on the East Coast a lot. Actually, you see it all over the place. They use it throughout the country, but and I've done a few projects here, and it's just not that popular yet down here. And actually, I've got to get a guy out of Kentucky to come all the way down here just to do the work. There's nobody here that does it. That's going to be the future. I mean, especially from a insurance standpoint. I mean, I know of 5 insurance companies that left the state. Eventually there won't be anybody else will insure. I don't think. Eventually it's going to stop somewhere. And the only way they're going to do it if you have a completely bomb-proof home. So, and you see that a lot in Florida.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So I mean, kind of on that, like when you are going through your hurricane resistant, obviously the technique matters, and I assume the material does too, about how you be prepared. Could you speak a little bit about, like what are the material choices you make and other strategies that you can, it's really kind of totally impressive to me that, you built a house that effectively had the structural integrity intact. It was probably a little wet, but
So you have basically you think of it as a system, okay? From the slab, most of our slabs are slabs on grade, and everything's anchor bolted, but there's continuous either plywood around the entire perimeter, 1/2-inch OSB that it's got to be certain nail patterns. There's all these certain, and the criteria is pretty much the same across the board as a nation, but we just have these extra straps that'll help tie in the bottom plate to the top plate to the rafters and all the way through and through. Like down in Grand Isle, which is on the coast, we use a lot of all thread rods that go from the slab through the bottom plate, through the top plate, all connects to the roof system. And it's just one continuous bounded entity, So it's cool, but to me it's normal. But
Right.
But back in the, there's some houses that my dad's built in the 80s that we'll go back and we'll renovate or they'll want to change something, and I'll pull off the brick, and there's a little 1/4-inch thin piece of styrofoam, and I'm like, how were they doing this back then? You know, it's pretty funny to watch I can watch in time how it's changed.
Right.
You know, it's pretty remarkable to see that these houses actually are still standing.
So do you do, on top of the kind of the custom builds, do you do renovations or repairs as well too?
We do some renovations. For the most part, it has to be like I try to make it mandatory where they move out.
Right.
You know, I don't like renovating in someone's space. It just it's kind of, they're living there, and then people aren't there every day. It's dusty. It's dirty. They kind of see how the sausage is made every day.
Right.
And that can get challenging at times. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, we do it sometimes when they're there, but for the most part, I like for it to be like a complete, you know, renovation. So yeah, we do. I didn't do too much hurricane work. I did one for a friend, and then I did another one it was a total gut, but the skin of the home was actually intact. They lost all the shingles on their roof, and then everything got flooded. So they had someone go in and gut it. So I kind of had like it needed new plumbing, new electrical, new HVAC, new floors. It was like a new house. So I took that one. And other than that, I'm not set up for it. I've tried to do it, but it's tough.
It probably turns into like, well, I pulled this down and found this, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And at some point, like, you are just hitting the reset button. So you might as well cut out the middleman, right?
Yeah. And then it's like, well, while you're here, can you,
that sounds fun.
Yeah.
You're like, Buildertrend change orders are great.
It just becomes a lot.
Yeah.
I'm doing 2 renovations right now, but one's more of an addition. It's on a home built in the 1930s. So we added on, we like quadrupled the square footage. So, you know, something like that. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Something we've been talking about a ton on the podcast the past year or so has just been, you know, the supply demand issues and materials backlog. Is that something that, you know, has continued to hit you equally hard, specifically around some of the, you know, hurricane resistant materials that you need? So
the last 2 years, well, first we had COVID, and everybody kind of knows about that, and pretty much tired of talking about it, I'm sure. But that material issue actually stretched into Ida. And, you know, you can talk to 5 of my customers right now, and 5 of them were all friends of mine, and, you know, hired me to do their house. The storm hit, and I was kind of like, well, I'm not taking any work. I'm going to get these started. And, you know, we got through the framing fairly easy. And then January hit, and that's when things just went total haywire. We couldn't get all the beams for the framing. We couldn't get insulation, drywall. We couldn't get anybody to do the work. We couldn't get anything down here. It was absolutely terrible. Couldn't get interior doors. I mean, so it wasn't just for, I guess, constructability for hurricane, but just in general, we couldn't get anything. And then that went in, and then I had some more houses to start, and then I couldn't get any framing, and the framing shot up so high. I mean, It was up until about July, which was not that long ago, it was pretty bad. You know, the labor is still really bad here. It's a big labor shortage, but for the most part, materials are starting to get better.
Oh, good.
But now I got this like bottleneck of, you know, where you're so process oriented, and all of a sudden, you know, you just throw all that out of the window, and you kind of just take what you're getting. It's better though. It's getting better, but it was bad. I don't even know if words can express how bad the last 9 months were. And it was mostly due to the storm, you know?
Right. Yeah. And then, just because it's better now doesn't mean that you don't, you know, have the backlog that you still need to finish and everything like that. So.
Yeah, you know, and it's I was very fortunate. I, met a little contractor here that had a little group of guys, and they were kind of green, and I kind of had to, take a leap of faith and kind of train them, because some of I lost 4 carpenters over the age of 60 last year.
Wow.
Four trim carpenters. That's a big deal. That's a big hit in our area. So then I had to kind of train these young guys. They're in their 20s to kind of become the new trim guys. And so far it's been fantastic. And we're finally getting some things done, and they're eager to learn. And I've got some old carpenter buddies that are willing to train and help direct, and and these guys are willing to learn. So it's been very nice the last 2 or 3 months, finally starting to get things moving again. So
yeah,
pretty rough.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to just pity party, but it was bad. I mean, it was bad. It was. I didn't know that kind of thing, a storm would have that kind of effect on an area, and when you basically, you can get framing lumber, but you can't get beams. You can't get hurricane straps. You can't get anchor bolts. You just can't get like normal things. And you're waiting 6 weeks to get some of this stuff. The windows. I mean, everybody knows about windows. I waited 7 months for windows because we wanted impact rated windows. You're talking about an area that's already hard to get windows as it is. My customers wanted impact windows. They're rated for hurricane strength, 200 mile an hour. They're not making them. I mean, they're going to go make a billion of the little cheap windows. They're not going to spend their time to go make and then after 4 weeks, they tell you 6 weeks, after you wait 6 weeks, 10 weeks, they're like, oh, well, it's going to be another 12 weeks. Oh, you wait another 12, and do you reorder different windows, and kind of get stuck in this limbo, and you just wait it out, so.
Are your customers pretty understanding of that? I mean, I know there's not much you can really do, but it's just interesting from a customer side of things.
Look, I'll say the
market's reaction.
I'll say that every single one of my customers, and they all have different stories that are, and I'll kind of get into that, but all of them are understanding, and they're in worse positions than you can probably imagine, where they moved out of there. They sold their house, but then things are taking so long. There's really no way to, they have to stay in it or they have to move out. So they're living with in-laws. Or I've had 3 people that were moved into apartment buildings during a storm. Storm hits, they get displaced. There's nowhere to live. So 2 of them moved out of state while I'm building the house. And I mean, it just high tension. But everybody really kind of somewhat kept their cool during it.
Right. And that's also something that, just with you being at a company that's been around for as long as it has, you just established some social capital, and everyone knows that they're doing the best that they can. You guys are taking it on the front, they're taking it on the back. We're all kind of in the same boat together.
I would say that's our biggest thing, because we got kids that are in the same school class at school, and then they're, I'm friends with a lot of them. We see each other on the weekend, and so for the most part, they were pretty understanding. As long as you just got to say the truth. That's all you can do.
Yeah,
and can complain.
And that's the interconnection of the community is obviously big, and I know that you are looking to. Well, actually, you're going to be at Buildertrend on the road in Denver.
Yeah.
Which is coming up here pretty soon. So, the interconnectivity of just other builders in the community and the industry as a whole, you'll get a chance to be one of the champions at the event in Denver. What are you kind of looking forward to most about Buildertrend on the road?
Besides getting to meet me and not Charley in person.
Yeah, Zach will be there.
You're not going to be there?
No, they keep. I'm a data scientist here at Buildertrend, so they keep me in my corner.
Keep him as
focus on data.
Sit at your desk.
I don't get to go out
work
and
your magic.
Yeah.
No, what I'm really interested in is and I've always liked this at BTU. When I've been to Omaha probably three times for BTU, I learn every time I go. I learn something new every time I go. I know I'm going to learn. I know I'm going to pick up something there while I'm there. I mean, that's a fact. But it's also helping the person next to me, or a different builder or whomever. I mean, there's several builders just in our area I'm really trying to push. I just know that it could help them. I think one of them finally ended up signing up with y'all. And then, I don't know, and maybe because that's what happened to me. I went to Buildertrend University, and, this guy I wish I could remember the name of his company, but just was like, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this. Like, I never looked at it like that. And then, of course, everyone from y'all staff just, so supportive and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. You kind of apply everything that you take in, and, I hope someone that's kind of on the border where I was, whether they're either signed up, already have Buildertrend, or don't have it and need to sign up, or someone that's probably a year or two in it and wants to give up, just kind of, that final little push, man. Once you get through that little bitty section of Buildertrend, and you just understand it overnight, all of a sudden it'll just click with you. Making it click for somebody, they can run with it. And I like that. I mean, I've always said I'm coming to work for y'all whenever I quit building. Cause I think it's great. I mean, I was just training a guy, who's about to start working with me. He's 64 years old, and, I stayed up, he was over here for 3 hours last night, and he's with his little iPad and like taking written notes, and I'm showing him how to use it. And this morning he's like blowing me up all over Buildertrend. Like, this is so great.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just fun. It's fun for me. I like seeing processes like take way, and I hope I can share that that week or that day with somebody. I'm staying a week though. That's why I said week. I'm driving up on Saturday, and after the show, I'm going to probably hang around for a couple of days and find something to do.
Yeah, I know. So, as the champion of the event, obviously your business and what you've built and how you operate is very successful, but your also commitment to use Buildertrend as one of kind of our power users or our BT champions is incredibly impressive as well. Are there a couple maybe key features inside the platform that you guys use a ton, or that are kind of personal favorites to you?
Oh man. I don't really know how to answer that. We pretty much use. I'll tell you the two things we don't use, but I don't use the porting too much or the warranty yet. But every other portion on there is unbelievable. I mean, the budget part for me is probably what got me when I integrated our budgets in QuickBooks, and man, and actually we just hired a bookkeeper that, so she's now kind of loading up everything into Buildertrend, any invoices that aren't, or any bills that are coming in that aren't purchase orders. And now I can sit, and even though they're not marked ready for payment, I can kind of just sit at my leisure, look at the budgets, look and see how these shake out, approve payment. And her and I not even communicating. I'm just like,
the dream.
Approve. Yeah. And she knows not to pay it if it's not approved. And it really is nice. And it's kind of set it up to where I'm not, obviously there's no paperwork. And my office is at home. So it's kind of important to me for my kids. They see me, we eat dinner. And sometimes I'll just kind of come walk in my office in the evening, and I can just calmly review, budgets and bills. And as long as I get them done weekly and she's not yelling at me to get them done, we're good. As long as I'm doing my part. So I think that's something to be said, not having to, thumb through 1,000 invoices like my dad used to do, paper.
Right. And the peace of mind of it all, right? Uh-huh. What you just said, the ability that you can pull up on your phone or your iPad or your computer and actually have a one-stop shop for how your business is doing, what needs to be paid, what doesn't. The not knowing is always the worst part. That right there in front of you.
And we use the selection processes. We got that pretty much down down pat, especially even for these custom jobs. I mean, there's so much that goes into just window selections, and they can get so convoluted just from emails and texts, and having a clear and visible, this is approved. This is a purchase order for the approved one, even though we gave you 10 different quotes. The window company knows that this is final, just not having those kind of little mistakes. It's nice. And think about it.
It's like death by 1,000 cuts, like those little mistakes.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's costly. Some can be pretty costly,
Yeah. That's when they start to you miss the details. And then eventually there's the big time mistake that, does cost you 10, 15, 20. Yeah. But
we say that all the time. Oh, it wasn't a big mistake. Yeah. But one day it will be.
Yep.
If you get a window color wrong, and that could be a big deal.
Imagine if our LSU coaches were just like, you can do that in practice. And then, when they get into the game, they forget their blocking assignment, and cost themselves overtime, maybe a little too soon.
I'm still a little sore about that last game.
As Husker fans, we're not doing that much better. So,
yeah. I guess the expectations there.
Yeah, exactly.
Most winningest coach. I'll give him some time. I'll give him a season. Yeah. I'm not one of those fans. I'll give him the season.
There you go.
I'll give him 2 seasons. There you go.
Geez, plenty of time.
Yeah. Well, we've given our guy 5, so it's going to get clipped and sent to the University of Nebraska, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they pay really close attention to the building code.
That's right.
Over here in Omaha. I would say, we're getting close to the end here, but one last kind of question on Buildertrend on the road. For anybody that's maybe hesitant about coming or even hasn't heard about it before, what would kind of be your pitch for why they should attend this event? Other than getting to see Zach Witovich live in person, which is a big draw.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I would say you can read and look up and research all you want, on the computer. That nothing is as good as going there and hearing it, one-on-one and working with somebody. I mean, even when like I said, I've been to BTU 3 times. I've had Brett Jones come to our office. Didn't he just get married, I think?
He did
last weekend. Look at that.
Brett.
Wow.
Yeah. So
we didn't get invited.
I know.
Small wedding. Good for Brett.
But, just having them coming down and having that one-on-one, or even when I go and see y'all at the Builder show in Las Vegas or Orlando, I learned something just having a one-on-one with anybody. And I think that's more powerful than anything you can do. So if you're even contemplating it, man, just go check it out. And it's not a salesy thing. It's not, I think once someone shows you how it can work and don't get overwhelmed by the small little details, it would be fruitful for you. It really would.
Well, and I'll tell you this, you're going to be busy, my friend. When I was there in Atlanta and our champion, I mean, it was get ready to talk. And because it's a testament, builders are looking for other builders to connect with, and Buildertrend's a great way to kind of come to do that. But a lot of people come and they're like, I don't know how to implement it in my business, and you're someone who has done it, so you're gonna have a lot of great conversations. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've already kind of it's easy. I mean, I say it's easy. I didn't know where to start. I started with the calendar. I mean, it was we just put a schedule together for my own good, and then I started adding pieces and parts to it, and I was like, well, maybe we can add selections to it. And then, man, it just, once you figure it out, you can just take off with it. So there you go. And good news for our listeners, they can go and register right now at buildertrend.com/Denver. And if they use pod 100 at checkout, they get a nice little discount as well too. So highly encourage anyone out there to go and register again at buildertrend.com/Denver. Get a chance to learn from Paul. Maybe go say hi to Zach. And it'll just be an overall fantastic event. Yeah. Otherwise, I think that about does it for this. Paul, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Learn absolutely, and maybe we'll bring you back on again for a third time. That'd be fantastic. Put you in the 3 club, man. The rare 3 club. Man, I think we need to do that. Definitely need to do that. We'll make it happen. Okay, y'all. Thanks a lot, Paul. See you. Thanks. We'll see you later. We just had Paul Ledet on talking about his business and everything. Charley, what did you learn?
Learned a ton. This is yet another example of an area that I was very, very under-informed on going into the podcast, and I feel fantastically informed after. Paul was a stud. It's really, really cool to hear about how long the business has been around and his transition, taking ownership there. One of my favorite things was, and this is obviously very biased, but just how much he loved Buildertrend. It's cool to talk to people that have fully implemented that and can see the value that it brings, which obviously is why we chose him to be the BT champion at Buildertrend on the road. So if you're going to that, I will not be there, but very, very just had to plug that one more time. If you are going, that's going to be a fantastic event. Definitely go introduce yourself to Paul. He talked a lot about how he likes to help other builders, and other builders have helped him, and it'll be a fantastic community event where a ton of people learn a lot. So yeah, fantastic guest, and I think maybe we do have to get him on here a third time. Get him in the
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was always great. I mean, he's been a big fan of Buildertrend for a long time. I remember the first episode, we got into just how much it changes business, and obviously really one of those things that I love hearing our builders talk about it. I mean, it's one thing, obviously, when we work at Buildertrend, we talk to our customers and we tell them, it's going to change what you do and how you do it. But to actually hear it from someone who lives it, uses it,
right,
it's embedded in his business. It's really powerful. It's really exciting, and we're changing the way the world builds.
That's the dream.
That's the dream.
So if you do want to meet Paul and Zach and hear more about it, and a ton of other fantastic things at Buildertrend on the road in Denver, again, make sure you go out to buildertrend.com/Denver and use code POD100 at checkout for $100 off your order.
Love it. We'll catch you next time. I'm Zach Witovich.
And I'm Charley Birtwistle.
Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.